started.
Go
ahead.
All right. We have a public hearing in process for 0 Flanders Road.
So this is a continued public hearing, and I would recommend that it be continued because we received plans but have not reviewed them. Go ahead.
All right.
Do we need a motion for that?
What's that?
They want to present some
it's
additional.
continued for today.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll just
we just
continue.
don't want you to close it inadvertently.
Got it.
So
Courtney, you are voting today. They hear me?
I think so. We
We
just
nodded.
can't hear him. Oh, he hasn't spoken yet.
Oh,
Yep.
all right.
I heard you.
There we
Good evening. My name is Greg Pettis with Pettis Engineering, office at 7 Atlantic Street, Mystic, Connecticut. Representing the applicant and owner of the property at 0 Flanders. With me tonight is David Lord, our soil scientist. Tabitha was pretty clear that we didn't get the plan. We didn't have a lot of time to get rid of building 2 and kind of make those alterations, but we wanted to kind of show you what we did with getting rid of building 2, and also David Lord was already kind of locked in for tonight, so we wanted to get his testimony regarding the intermittent water stream and the report the assessment report he presented on the record, and if you had any specific questions for him regarding this plan. He's here tonight, and I just didn't want to chance the next meeting, him not being here or something happening. So anyway, I'll be brief because, we're going to have another chance review, and so. But what we were tasked with was to, and we kind of indicated and showed you how we got to where we got last month. And getting rid of building 2 was kind of clear that needed to happen, and kind of try to shorten up the piping of the intermittent water stream as much as possible. So this is the cover sheet again. You can see building 2 is clearly gone, but I'm just going to flip to again, the existing conditions plan didn't change. Again, I'm going to be brief. This is the site plan. As you can see, building 2 is gone. Basically kept, minimized the pavement as much as possible. So we pulled the parking spaces up against the building another 5 feet. And then we limited the 24-foot basically surround around two-way traffic around the building. And I'm going to flip to the next page and just talk about the intermittent water stream. We have a similar planting buffer, the 5-foot planting buffer at the bottom of the wall where it's disturbed. Again, it's a 4.5-foot wall max. Went with the kind of a more natural boulder wall instead of a poured concrete. It's a little crevices and so forth for animals. It's not as rigid as in kind of vertical as the concrete wall. But we presented that last time, so same thing here. Again, as we discussed, we did put a new catch basin in. We're gonna run into a manhole and then a shorter piece of pipe, plunge pool, similar drainage system.
How much shorter is it?
So as a crow flies, and I think I'm going to give you both those references. So again, there was about a 25-30 foot piece of pipe there previously. As a crow flies, we're at about 110 total, so we did chop off an extra 20 feet. And really, that's just to, I can put up the previous plan, but I think that was closer to 130.
Which of those lines?
Yeah,
is the pipe?
thank you. That's what I was
So-
talking about.
So the catch basin is here.
Yeah. you go-
That's existing, and we're
And you go
replacing that
north.
with a new one. We're gonna go north within the right of way to a manhole. And then we're gonna run, I guess it would be in a northwest direction to the plunge pool that's here. So it's this.
Why were you measuring this then?
Well, I was just measuring as a crow flies, so, the straight line was what I was measuring. So it's 48 as it goes on kind of an angle, which is a little bit longer than, if we could run it straight, but we felt it was more important to keep it out of the pavement.
So the question is, how much of the
48.
intermittent water course are you piping now?
So right now, existing, there's about 30 feet piped, and we're gonna be piping an additional. It's about 100 feet additional.
We're still measuring on that
I don't- I
internal
don't-
line.
I don't-
Well, I'm measuring that the stream is here, the intermittent water stream is located here. It runs straight out of the pipe and runs.
Right, and you're picking it up here, taking it north and then turning.
Yes,
Right,
So why are you measuring in the other line?
because I was just asked how much of the intermittent water stream I'm piping.
so this is what
So-
exists,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yes,
But you're not gonna, now you're gonna go
we're taking
up here.
we're taking that piece of pipe out.
Right.
And we're gonna run, so
So really, it
Yeah.
seems like you should be measuring,
I could, yeah, so 66 feet plus 48 feet are the two lengths of pipe.
what's this length?
From there to there, that's 66 feet.
66. This is in the road. Is that correct?
It's in the right of way, not in the road, but in the right of way, just in the shoulder.
Now, the next question is, why can't you back the piping up closer to the road, since it's outside of your footprint?
We could, you mean shorten this length here, to maybe
Put the plunge pool there.
we could do that. Then you're just gonna be creating, well, you're gonna be creating more we tried to tie it back into the existing intermittent water stream.
Right.
We-
I understand.
If we put the plunge pool back, be creating, we either have to make the plunge pool larger, and or create an intermittent extent or a new intermittent water course. Whether it's, made out of riprap, we could do that.
Right.
We could do that. I think it's.
That's preferable to pipe.
Okay. We could absolutely do that. I was just, all I was trying to do was bring it back into the intermittent water stream that's already there. And, we could absolutely do that. But we'd be creating, I would probably create some kind of open channel that's riprap, that's a little bit better than kind of formed naturally. So we could absolutely do that. And that's why, we wanted to come tonight to get that feedback. I mean, I chose what I would consider to be, less disturbance. But that's,
okay, can you make a case for that then? Why you think that would be less disturbance?
well,
A
I
little more
think
detailed
you're,
about it?
again, it's half a dozen of one, six of another. My preference strictly as an engineer would be to get it into a plunge pool and then get it back into the existing intermittent water stream. To pull it, we could pull it back, I'd want to avoid this corner here a little bit. So in order to do that, I would probably want to go a little bit more in the northeast direction, which is getting off of, which doesn't mean we can't do that. It just means you're getting off of the that intermittent water course that's running in this, kind of on this angle here.
Right, but the stream after that is gonna be created. It's not gonna be the original anyway. Correct?
Well, from this point
Yeah,
where we
I
have.
understand,
levels
but
where it
if
is-
you put the plunge pool back here and you have a riprap channel to the intermittent water course.
Yeah, it's just gonna not be, it's gonna come kind of sweep around a little bit. Yes, we could absolutely do that. And I'm not, you know, again, I chose to do this to get it back in line, and I understand.
What's your
Mission
plunge pool?
prefers to pull that back, we could absolutely.
What's your
do
plunge
that.
pool looking like? What
Uh,
exactly? We've seen a lot of plunge pools.
This is kind of a cross section of it.
Okay.
So the water comes in,
What's on the bottom and all that kind of stuff?
what's on the bottom? It's
Yeah.
it's crushed,
Okay.
like riprap, surge stone. But it gets in and you can see it's a little bit lower at the bottom of it
Yep.
where it exits.
Yep.
And that's how you can see the 176 contour is around, and then we're exiting at 177, so it's about a foot higher.
And so this plan then basically at the beginning of what is now the intermittent water course unpiped. You're gonna just sort of set that right in there. You don't need to dig or you don't need to. And that's the reason you were gonna put it there?
The reason we put it there is if you can see, I'm just gonna flip back to. So it's not perfectly straight now, so it exited the pipe. Way up there. It exited the existing pipe at wetland flag 42.
Right.
It ran straight to wetland flag 40, and then it kind of angled a little bit to 39, and then that's where it kind of widened out, and that's where we, that's where
It leads to next to each other. Yeah. Okay, so now where's your plunge pool in this?
so the
picture?
plunge pool is kind of right in this area
Got
to
it.
the northeast of 40. To get it onto that line where it's already widening a little.
A lot of.
Wasn't that also gonna accommodate the water runoff from the parking lot?
Yeah, so we actually also, again, I'm not gonna repeat everything, and through the hydrodynamic separator and into the underground infiltration and then control
Right.
coming out, and that exited here. So if we were gonna move the plunge pool back up in a way, we would want to run this just up a little further, so it came back down through there, which again, it's, for me, it doesn't, I thought this was kind of a better approach, but I
The
understand.
plunge pool or the riprap channel will, not in my lifetime, become wetlands eventually. The pipe will never become wetlands. And that's where I'm headed.
Mhm.
So the minimum of pipe is preferable. And we're bending over backwards here. I mean, normally we would keep people 100 feet or more from an intermittent water course. Understand that, right?
Yes,
Yeah. So we are bending over backwards here in terms of understanding. And we're kind of having to pull it out of you a piece at a time.
well,
Yeah, I understand where you're at,
yeah,
but you have to understand.
I understand where you're at too, so if the plunge pool, I can, the most I gotta keep it on our property.
Mhm.
Right.
So, but we could get it into this location here. Which would pull it back about,
A lot.
I would say about 45
Yeah.
feet or so.
Yeah.
Which basically then leaves you with the same amount of pipe that you have right now.
A little more, but
Well,
yes,
but, yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
As a crow
Effectively.
flies, it's much
Yeah.
closer.
Yep.
On the angle, it's a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
So again, that's why we're here tonight. I think originally maybe staff wanted us just to come in 2 weeks or on the 8th, whatever that is. Which is a little longer than 2 weeks, I guess. But that's why I wanted to, I took an approach that I thought was. We did shorten it. We did shorten it some more.
Mhm.
And create a plunge pool and create a riprap channel that's open and tie back into that, so.
I understand, as an engineer, you want to pipe it straight, but
Mm,
the nature doesn't necessarily work that way.
mm.
Yeah. So we did also increase the size of the pipe to 30 to alleviate the concerns across the way.
Right.
We did slow the water down a little bit coming through there by. So I think, I'm gonna let David speak now and just be brief, and maybe you can ask questions if necessary.
Good evening. For the record, my name is David Lord. I'm a professional soil scientist and environmental consultant. My company is Soil Resource Consultants, and my office is in Meriden, Connecticut. What I'm going to talk about primarily is the document which I prepared, which is the Function and Values Assessment Report. It's dated December 30th. That particular protocol is used by Connecticut Deep and the Army Corps of Engineers. It's not a ranking type system when you generate a quantitative number, either high, low, medium. Some protocols actually generate a number, sometimes a 3-digit number. This particular protocol is referred to as the descriptive approach. It quantifies wetlands and evaluates wetlands on the presence or absence of a particular review criteria. And I generally use that for all of the assessments that I do, because a lot of the projects that I work on ultimately have to go through state and federal permitting also. So I do it one time. And I found it to be a much more flexible, somewhat easier to understand. You don't have to make as many judgment calls in determining a number or high. I don't think anybody uses high, medium, and low value wetlands anymore, but at some point in time in the past, they did use those types of hierarchy. This particular approach uses a large number of evaluational criteria and determines, again, there is some subjective professional judgment as it describes whether or not that particular feature is present or not present, or if it's a principal concern. You have a copy of the cover sheet, which is at the end of the narrative, or at the end of the narrative. It's that page isn't really numbered, but it has all of the function and values that are assessed. The numbers in the third column are those features which are present within the wetland systems that we're looking at, and then determining in this particular case whether or not it is a primary function of the wetland system. Now, the evaluation was done at the time when we were also looking at this wetland system as a.
Actually, you could use here, it's a touch screen, so
Okay, that was-
if you can.
I was gonna check and see if that was
No,
one of those that you could actually use a pointer on.
no, if you could just point here,
I'll
this
try to
camera.
stay not over the top. So this is the wetland system that this application is concerned with. Originally, I also evaluated this section of wetland, but that is not part of the active encroachment that is proposed. So unless you have questions specifically about how this was rated, I will strictly use the evaluation that I did on the intermittent water course. The water course itself, and I'll flip back and forth between intermittent and water course, but it is an intermittent water course because there was, on several of the occasions when I was out there, there was no flow whatsoever in the channel. The feature originates or connects to an area on the east side of Flanders Road. There's a large wetland system that empties into a pipe flows under Flanders Road and discharges. Yeah, right there. Does that, okay, it does show, good. The channel itself appears to be from about just below the proposed outlet of the plunge pool back to the culvert, man-made or managed, shall we say. It has very steep sides, very straight, vertical bottom. The channel itself does not have a connection with any groundwater table condition in there. That is based on soil borings that I did in the bottom of the channel, but it's also reflective in the vegetation, which is alongside of the intermittent water course. Again, no connection to a water table function, which again affects the overall value of the functioning of this wetland system. It is primarily, and the report describes it as the primary function of this watercourse feature is the conveyance of excess stormwater runoff, groundwater runoff under certain circumstances that flows the east side of Flanders Road down a very steep, relatively speaking, channel, and ultimately empties into a portion of a very large wetland system, which extends well off-site to the east, connects around. There's a peninsula of upland in this area and actually connects to the same wetland that's on the south side of this site as you move further to the west. Important criteria or characteristic, this large wetland system would be classifiable as a mesotrophic type wetland system. It has neither too little or too much nutrient enrichment. It is in the middle. They're generally recognized in the literature and by personal experience as being the best type of wetlands for the functions that you like to see associated with wetlands. It has the ability to cleanse, purify, pre-treat, whatever descriptor you want to use by virtue of the plant material in here, the vegetation in here, and the micro relief. This particular wetland system in its present character has a lot of rocks and a lot of surface hummocks and pool areas. It traps water, allows it to soak into the ground or reside, and allow the vegetation to purify that stormwater as it resides within the wetland system itself. That's the ultimate feeding of the area that is proposed to be altered by the project. I have identified a number of other criteria. Maybe the appropriate spot here. For what I'm referring to as wetland resource area 2, descriptive as a relatively moderately sloped channel, provides a limited time for infiltration, meaning the water does not reside at the bottom of the channel. Very little time, very little ability for that water to infiltrate into the ground, unlike the large wetland to the south or the area further to the northeast of the watercourse channel itself, where residence time in those areas allow that water to reflect. It has some ability, although I don't see any, or I have not seen any indication of any discharge in the channel itself. Again, no connection to a water table and relatively confined gradient above the watercourse channel, does not have a lot of water moving to it. General grades direct the water generally in the northeast direction, or northwest direction and westerly direction, other than flowing to the channel itself. That might be somewhat of a function of the fact that this area was altered under the construction scenario. You can see some boulders, you can see some spoil piles outside of the edge of the watercourse channel. Again, indicating that this is a man-made or at least man-altered particular resource area. That is the primary functioning of the resource. Wetland Resource Area 2 was found to have the groundwater recharge discharge function. Again, it also has product export, the flow of surface waters, and very limited yes, very limited to no wildlife habitat function because of the size, configuration, and lack of food source supplies within the channel itself. There is very limited, primarily to that ability to convey excess stormwater that reaches the inlet on the other side of Flanders Road. All of that is spelled out in the report. The project has changed a bit since the conclusion statement, so I won't go into that at this point. That very briefly also looked at is the function and values assessment. I also looked at the latest Natural Diversity Database listing for any plant or animal species. There were no listings within the immediate area, generally more than a half a mile away. Or from the project site. That's the overview, a quick one of the function and values assessment that was performed on this site. The project itself is going to obviously take a portion of the existing channel and redirect that flow from this point down to through a new piping system, plunge pool area, and continue the flow. From a functional standpoint, that flow is going to be basically probably as close as I can determine the same from a functional standpoint, moving into its discharge point in the wetland area. There will likely be some sedimentation and stabilization of the channel itself, because as I mentioned, the channel has vertical sides, very steep, concentrates flow in the bottom of the channel in many places. That has a tendency to scour, move some of the sediment in the, well, not sediment, soil off the sides of the watercourse channel, create it as sediment, and it flows down through the system. So you have that particular functioning occurring presently under the existing condition. Some of that area in its upper limits will not occur because of the piping. So that's a somewhat of a positive function. And with that, I'll conclude and just be happy to try to answer any questions that members may have concerning the.
At what point does the sediment in the bottom of the channel support microfauna? In other words, you have small minerals, small particles that have water envelopes around them.
If you look at the present configuration of that channel, from its discharge point down to a point somewhat to the northeast, and I'll just generally say, generally, the area of flag 100 and 101 is where you get some sedimentation buildup and you have some elevated hydrology in that area because of the fine texture of the soils that settle out right there. You have some vegetation indicative of a moist environment. Above that point, back to the discharge point at the culvert, I saw nothing that has any relationship to a moist environment, a wetland, even a beginning of a formation of one. I did dig holes in the bottom because I'm looking for that connection to the water table if there is one. Sometimes you can find an elevation of bedrock that isn't visible on the surface, so you dig down a ways to see. But a good 18 to 24 inches below the bottom of the watercourse channel, there's no indication whatsoever of any elevated hydrology.
So in your opinion, does the riprap channel I was talking about earlier improve the situation that would be found as opposed to what's presently there?
You have two factors that the riprap will, and the piping for that matter, will have a benefit to the channel itself. Because of the steepness of the slope, there is erosion of the channel, there is transport of sedimentation through the channel and discharge to the wetland in the northwestern corner of the site. That area that is going to be protected either by riprap or pipe will not be subject to the erosive forces which presently occur. And because of the very narrow confined configuration of that channel, there is some significant scouring in places there. It's not a straight shot. There's a couple of bends in it, and the outside bend, just like a stream does, the outside bend erodes and the inside bend collects. So that function will be there. Riprap has a benefit environmentally in that it churns the water and introduces additional oxygen into the water itself. So that is a factor, that is a benefit specifically addressed to the change. The existing condition where there is no real churning of the water, it falls and walks and runs around rocks and the like, but it doesn't have the bouncing off of the rock riprap that churns, that tends to churn the water, and you get some aeration. So that increases the water and the cleansing overall of the stormwater.
In addition, over time, fines will accumulate in the cracks between the rocks.
In the bottom area, yes.
Yeah.
But the sides, no.
No, but in the bottom.
There will be some, yes, in a sedimentation basin, probably giving it more of a name than it should have, the plunge pool area have a tendency to cleanse themselves. This is a system that does not have very much active development or sediment discharge occurring upstream of the area that we're talking about. You've got some road sands that wash off of Flanders Road and move into the drainage system, come up from the bottom of this, whatever sump structure is in the catch basin, and go into the storm drainage pipe. That is there. It's going to continue to be there. It's not going to be adversely affected by the pipe. It probably will be positively affected by the pipe because of the plunge pool. That has ready access. It's going to be very easy to see. There's a lot of sediment in here, needs to be cleaned up. A little bit of sediment isn't a problem. It's when you have a system that continually pumps sediment into a wetland system, and you can get some changes in the wetland system. And I did look down gradient of where the confined channel is into the wetland system here. And what's coming through there now is not at all affected by the sedimentation into that wetland system. Wetlands are extremely strong mechanisms for the settling out and retention of sediment. That's one of their natural processes. They can withstand and incorporate fines as they move through a water course and are deposited within the wetland without any harm. It's only where you get massive amounts of coarse to fine textured soils and you get that in massive amounts, I'm talking about a foot or more in a quick slug, that you get a covering of a wetland system, then you can get some degradation and harm to the wetland system, but slow over time is not generally a problem. They can more than overcome and adapt to the existing conditions of feeding the wetland system.
Other questions?
In the plunge pool, wasn't there a kind of a sock or something that was supposed to be catching sediment as well? Or am I thinking of a different plan? I could. I thought there was a provision for catching sediment.
I think we had a silt sack in the catch basins that was catching sediment from the road system.
That's what I was thinking.
The only thing that usually goes into one of these type structures, especially one that has the ease of visibility, you can put a monitoring stake in the bottom of the plunge pool and a mark that says the sediment gets built up to this point. It's time to clean it out. I've seen that in a lot of the sediment plunge pool areas, especially where you don't have complete control of the water that's coming into the plunge pool. In this case, you're getting a lot of area to the east of Flanders Road. I have not looked at, I have no idea what potential it is for more development on that side. But again, it's introducing the plunge pool to its new environment. And it gives you a very easy, readily identifiable mark that says it's collected and done its job very nicely. To this point, it needs to be cleaned out and reset. And that's very simple. You go into a vacuum hose like they do for catch basins. And
Now, if you did do the riprap, to what depth would you do the riprap in order to manage some of that buildup? I mean, like, how deep would that be and so forth, if it was not
Rick's
tight?
probably a better one to talk about the thickness the riprap is.
Say what we have on our plan here. Read it upside down here. Filter layer bedding is 6-inch minimum, that's down at the bottom, and then there's 12-inch thickness of riprap. So there's a 6-inch kind of
Is it a different
yeah,
size
so it's
or?
about 18 inches. Yeah, so the bottom 6 inches is like a bedding, it's not
It's
actually
smaller.
riprap, it's smaller.
Yeah, and then
And
you.
riprap kind of sits in
on
that,
top, okay,
so it's 18 inches of total depth.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, we've had a couple of situations where we were curious to know the effect of salt, like ice melt on wetlands that are close by. And I was just wondering if you could talk to that.
My experience with that, it's a question I get asked a lot. The only time I have ever seen negative impact to plants or wetlands is when there used to be uncovered salt storage. Even along major highways, the limitation, the dilution factor, which is the key to salt, beyond a couple of feet from the side of the plowed surface and the treated surface, the dilution factor of road salt is totally below the threshold for any damage to vegetation. And the approximate dimensions away from there, I haven't seen any problems with salt. It just doesn't occur. The only places it did, I've only been in Connecticut since '82. But back then, I remember driving around and seeing a lot of salt piles that weren't covered. Now they have those big domes.
Hmm.
And first they put on a large tarp systems that would keep it out because it made sense, because if the rain hits the salt, it's gonna wash the salt away. And that's what they need. But the covering of the salt storage areas is significant in that. And I have not seen one study or one red flag go up for road salt causing problems to any wetland system.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I just want to state for the record, I agree, you don't need to necessarily talk about the other wetland, but just for the record, it is within our purview. It just seems like we've come to
Okay,
a balanced agreement on
sure.
balancing.
Well, let me start. Are there any questions specific to that particular wetland?
Yeah, I'm
system?
kind of concerned with the quality of that. I'd like to know.
Well, the wetland system itself is a wooded shrub swamp type wetland system. It appears to have some discharge, very small. I didn't see any springs or anything, moving from a east to west direction. You have a relatively steep roadside grade just above that. The flagging goes probably within 6 to 8 feet of the toe of the fill slope for the roadway. Discharge of any collected water, and we've got drainage here and drainage to this side, will build up, and there's a very poorly defined channel that runs through
Hmm.
the middle of it.
Yeah, we saw some water when we were
Yes.
out there.
In addition to that, you have what I would consider a relatively well-used footpath that runs through in the area of flag 14 to 10. It's about 3 feet wide. I can see it because it's more than a deer trail. It had human feet walking on it. The vegetation is suppressed. Leaves are still there, but there's nothing growing in that area. Just as a description. Very healthy, very good representation of tree canopy. The oaks, great mass production, wildlife benefits galore. You've got shrub vegetation, primarily spice bush, a little bit of arrowwood. I think there's also some sweet pepper bush off the top of my head that was the shrub layer. The negative to having such a dense tree canopy and shrub understory is ground cover vegetation and shade. There's not an awful lot of ground cover vegetation diversity. There is some secondary regrowth in the main tree canopy. Acorn drops, squirrels don't get it. Up sprouts a small natural succession. The separation distance, lack of discharge from the project earlier in its configuration, but especially important here, the 50-foot upland review zone limit only touches a corner, one side in this area here of the wetland system. There's a significant upland review zone band of vegetation between where the work stops and the wetland starts. And it's very loose pipe material, great infiltration capacity. It's a thick layer of leaf duff that's partially decomposed tree leaves. Over time, it builds up. And if you remember walking, for those of you that walked on the site, it gives you a very spongy feel. That's a excellent condition for the upland review zone areas around a wetland that you may be concerned with from an impact standpoint. It has an excellent layer of protection. Its physical characteristics are very, very well suited to provide that cleansing effect that we've talked about. It provides excellent wildlife habitat value. Wildlife species in general here and to the west, closest to the west, have already adapted themselves to the significant amount of, I don't see the entrance, but that big facility on the other side of Flanders Road. A lot of traffic on Flanders Road and a lot of traffic coming out of that somewhere It's got to be right in here. So you're not looking for forest interior species, the species that are not suitable for. They need the areas back here where
Yeah.
there isn't anything going on.
Yeah.
They usually say, the wildlife experts say at least a 500-foot zone of undisturbed buffer around a critical habitat for a forest interior species. We don't have that in here, but the species that are here, they're going to see obviously a new level of development. They're going to have cars coming in. That's unavoidable, but they already have cars coming in through and past the site and coming out of the development on the other side of the road. It's somewhat of a reduction, but I've never seen anybody able to compute what that level of impact will be. I can say, other than the upland species that may be utilizing portions of this, because some of the trees and the shrubs are going to come down. They're not going to be there for nesting sites and other habitat conditions. But all the other functions, I think, are going to be maintained after the development.
Since we have you here,
Mhm.
I have another question about whether or not the, reduction of water coming down the slope toward that healthy wetland is gonna make any difference. Since all the water's going from the parking lot is gonna get piped to the other side.
This, right in here, the terrain is very up and down. It's hard to tell. There's a existing condition which takes a lot of the water from the front portion of the site and directs it in a northeasterly direction. This slope here and the slope to the south is going to continue to feed subsurface water flow to the wetland and out to the other. Grade changes are not significant. It will get some backup of hydrology from the main wetland system. This is a finger of wetland that's already connected to an existing highly functioning wetland system area. I don't see any degradation of the hydrology occurring from what is being proposed here. If you just in short split the site in half, relatively small area drainage that is going to be redirected to the north rather than go to that wetland system to the south. I don't see any reason to believe it's going to starve the hydrology of that wetland system. So again, that type of wetland system is probably built more by the groundwater table and the proximity of that to the surface than waiting for overland flow to come to it.
Thank you.
Sure.
And just to add, we did talk about last time, we took some of the roof water and we piped it to the back of the wall on that side.
Oh.
So some of the water, we took the parking lot water and took that around and treated it, put it in the underground infiltration and then added that to the plunge pool. But the roof water, we piped to the wall along that backside. I guess it would be the southwest side.
Want to point
out here? Yeah, so it's piped to this area here. So it does get back. So we didn't take all of it away. We tried to balance it the best we could with what's existing and what's proposed.
You know, another question I had was just about how much of this site, percentage wise, is this impermeable surface with the roof and the parking lot that's in the upland review area or in the wetland?
Well, so there's, I'm gonna just talk about, it's about 21% impervious, 22%.
Okay,
I'll have the figure exact for next time.
Okay.
We're gonna alter a couple of.
All right.
things. But I did that calculation. We're right around less than 22%, which is considerably low, but given the site, it's, I think we did pretty well with keeping that number down.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you set?
I think I'm all set unless questions, but we're gonna be back in, is it the 8th, February 8th, is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Some audience here, you have a comment to make?
No comment.
I just have one other question. Staff was gonna get us some sort of overview of the adjacent wetland and the, I asked last time.
I'm sorry, I'm remiss. I do not have that tonight, but I'll definitely provide it to you at the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Make a motion to continue the public hearing until the 8th of February.
Second,
Second?
all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? He's with the hand. All right. You're continued.
thank you. And if you, wow. You think David, meeting or?
I don't know.
I'm satisfied. Thank you very much. You're
Yeah,
very
thank
helpful.
I don't think he needs to be here.
Okay, thank you. Get to talk about.
Great. We need to grab those plans. There needs to.
Oh,
Oh. They're no different than what was.
I know.
Okay,
It's just in case we have to go to court, right?
Yep. All right. Moving on. Public communications. So
I don't have any. I don't know if there's anybody else in the audience who has public communication.
is this one we should ask?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
all right.
Says Steph.
Well, we have another exciting site that we'd like to kind of get a preliminary look-see at from the commission. It's a challenging site. Maybe get familiar with it. 3 Kings Highway. It might be, look at it quickly. We did a little bit of preliminary work and
No, if you want to do that, you need to add it to the agenda under new business.
Okay.
If you want to entertain this.
We're happy to do that. We're gonna wait till gonna have to wait till new business though.
okay,
Sorry.
yep, okay, thank you.
All right. Approval of minutes of January 11th.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 11th.
Second. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. New application. Drew driveway. 0 Elm Street. South, no ink.
Promote the applicants,
One,
yes.
there's 2.
Can you hear me now?
You can.
Hi, everybody. Ed Wenke here. How are you?
Recognize that voice a million miles away.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get the live video going here. I thought I had it working before, but no, it's good to see you all. I'm back and we got a project here tonight. It's a pretty simple one. It's over in Noank. It's on Elm Street South. It's an existing single family lot. It's undeveloped, currently undeveloped. The zone is R20. There's just shy of an acre of land to it. There's actually no wetlands within the perimeter of the lot, but the lot fronts along South Street, Elm Street, and that's.
Hey,
I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, can you share your screen?
Can I share my screen? Yeah, where's the button to do that? Oh, there it is.
In the bottom, yep.
All right, yeah, let's do this. Let's share the screen right here. Is that working? Can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is my CAD file. So, okay, so the site is, like I said, located on Elm Street South. It's about 600 feet from the intersection of Groton Long Point Road, which runs along this way. And it has about 116 plus or minus feet of frontage along Elm Street South. Elm Street South is also a state highway. So, as I said, we really don't have any wetlands within the perimeter of the site, which is shown in blue here. But if you look up close along the frontage, we have a storm ditch that runs through here. And Don Fortunato was a soil scientist that flagged it as a regulated area. This storm ditch has been there for a while. It basically picks up approximately 20 plus acres of watershed. This yellow dashed line you're seeing right here is the extent of the storage volume within that storm ditch. So if you look all the way up, blow it up, this white line is about the watershed that drains into it, okay? So we routed the storms through here and tried to figure out how much water this thing is actually storing. It drains out with culverts on both sides to a wetland on the south side, which ultimately drains out down by Spicer's Marina. So getting back to what we're trying to do, we've got frontage along the road. That's our only access point to this site. The applicant wants to build a single-family house in here, located up high. You can see the property slopes up on a natural grade about 12 to 15% as it goes up. We're going to have a driveway coming out of his garage below. It's going to be an embankment style house. The driveway is going to come down, and the minute it gets across our property line on the street line, we've got to cross the wetland. There's no way around it. There's no other place to bring a driveway. So what I did is I proposed this location for the driveway. The driveway is going to be about 15 foot wide. The grades all work within town criteria for private driveway. It is a single family private driveway. But we need to obviously fill in this area where the regulated area is, and that's part of our permit with you right now. What I've tried to accomplish here is this. We have a certain storage volume that's within this drainage swale. As I said, it's picking up about 20 acres of upland storm watershed. It's picking up the road drainage from the road. It's picking up a bunch of different pipes pipe into it. We don't want to eliminate any storage volume in there. We want to minimize how much we eliminate storage volume in there as much as possible. So what I'm proposing is putting in two 36-inch diameter culverts directly below our filling. That accomplishes a couple things. Number one, we obviously, have that much less fill in there, so we are not losing that much storage in that depression, number one. Hydraulically, the two 36-inch culverts are way over designed. It doesn't need to be that way hydraulically. Ideally, I'd put a bridge on this thing. I mean, that would be the ideal thing, but it's not economically viable. So the two 36-inch culverts are in there. They equalize the flow on both sides. It flows underneath. It's not a problem. The hydraulics all work out very well. Our application to you tonight is for filling the wetland area, the actual flagged or regulated wetland area, by about 850 square feet. The volume of fill is only 70 cubic yards. Again, we reduced a lot of the fill because we're putting the culverts in. And then in addition to that, we obviously have an upland review area disturbance, which follows up the slope. This is your 100-foot upland review area. Can you all see my cursor there? This hatched area is that disturbed area. That comprises about 6,400 square feet. The amount of fill in that area is about 230 cubic yards. We're not filling a whole lot. I'm trying to keep to the existing grade as much as possible as I'm rising up. So that's the premise behind our permit with you tonight. Now, this application is going before a couple of different agencies as we speak. You are obviously the first stop and the most important. But we also have DOT has been reviewing this application, and I've been in contact with DOT on a number of items here. Noel Miller and I have talked about the drainage. He's gone out and reviewed it. He's reviewed my calculations, and he's in agreement with my approach to this on the culverts. So from a drainage standpoint, this is not an issue from DOT. And let's face it, this isn't DOT's right of way, so this is their purview. This is their drainage. So DOT drainage is not an issue. The little glitch we have right now is with sight distance on the driveway. I located this driveway to come down so we could get as maximum amount of sight distance going towards the east as much as possible. As you can see, this road curves around. There's a bit of a blind spot here on this curve. So putting the driveway in here, we were able to maintain about 300 feet of sight distance. Now, we did that based on 35-mile-per-hour speed limit. The DOT's telling me we got to use 44 miles per hour. In other words, this 300-foot sight distance has got to extend out, by their numbers, almost 490 feet, which we can't make. But they said, give us as much as you can. The only way we can give them as much as we can for sight distance is to take this driveway and shift it over by about 30 feet. And I can physically do that. And I've already told DOT we're going to try to see how that works. By doing that, we get more sight distance out here, about as max as we can get. But you'll notice that we've always been in this shoulder here doing clearing within the shoulder. And we have to do vegetative clearing because of that sight distance. Now, the vegetative clearing we're proposing in there is basically part of a maintenance thing that DOT normally does twice a year. But I can't say that they've been really up to the job here twice a year for the past several years. So the brush that we're looking at cutting down is nothing mature. It's mostly trees, it's brush. And what we need to do is not necessarily rip it out of the ground and take it all the way down. Technically, it only needs to be dropped down about a 2 foot, no higher than 2 foot from the edge of pavement. And that keeps the sight line, which is about 3.5 feet above edge of pavement, clear. So I talked to DOT about this. I said, hey, you want me to move the driveway? I'm going to give you extended sight distance, but we're going to, this sight line now moves a little bit further over this way. So now we're clearing this whole shoulder out. I said, how are we going to do that? And he said, well, that's basically the owner's responsibility to perpetually maintain that. So the owner's asking me now, how do I do that? I said, well, every year you got to go out there and you got to cut it down until this guy builds a house here. Then he's going to have to cut all that vegetation down anyway to put his driveway in. So, but that's not happening yet. You'll notice the lots on both sides of this are undeveloped lots. There is a developed lot here with a house in their own driveway. So that's everything that's happening within the right of way and everything that's happening within the regulated wetland area. We've minimized as much as we could for fill. Even by shifting the driveway, as I said, we're going to end up probably having to shift this driveway over about 20 feet. The house and the main driveway will stay as it is. We're going to put a slight reverse curve on it and bring it down this way. But the amount of wetland fill that's going to happen with that, the wetland disturbance, really remains unchanged because the wetland body is basically the bottom of the ditch. So, yeah, that's what we're proposing right now. Currently, as I said, DOT is reviewing this. They're going to get us our comments this week. We have the Architecture Review Board in Noank, and the Noank Zoning Commission is reviewing this. So we got a lot of different eyes going on. So we're fielding comments as we speak. And Groton Town staff, I think, is having a staff review next week. So we'll be receiving comments from the staff. But tonight's our first meeting with you. I wanted to personally come and say hello to everybody. But I also wanted to be able to explain to you briefly what we're trying to do here. It's fairly simple. There's really no way around it. We do have to cross that wetland to access the property. It's just a function of what's the minimal thing we can do to do that. I think I've achieved that with this design, but I'm open to questions and any comments you might have. Buddy?
Can I just this is Dave Prescott from the town.
Hi, Dave.
Obviously, we're just hearing this tonight, and I just started a cursory review of it. And one of the things that I noticed is the property to the east. There is wetlands on that property, and upland review will extend into the property you're talking about right now. I can provide a copy of that map of what they provided initially for that property, but the upland review right now, you're just showing the southern section. There's actually a wetland to the east that will cover over the area, actually where the house is proposed right now. Correct. Yep.
Hey, right here where I'm circling, Dave?
Yes, correct. Yep.
That lot, there's a wetland on that lot?
There is, yep.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yep.
Because I checked
Absolutely.
all the soil maps on this and, and I actually went out there and I walked the site, last month when I was up in Connecticut. And I didn't notice that at all.
That was done with the sub.
Yeah, it was maybe 2 years ago, Ed, when that property owner was looking to sell. Bob Russo from CLA did the flagging, so we can get that to you.
Yeah, do that. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. So what that'll
Is there
effectively do, what that effectively does is it increases our 100-foot upland review disturbance area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's
Okay.
right.
So is it going to push us into a public hearing? Please say no.
No, I just had a question for you, Dave. Is that adjoining property? Is that actively being?
Is that the,
No,
which one's the rock pile?
the rock pile is the one to the, is that the one to the north?
The rock pile is us.
Oh, it's you guys, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see them on my plan. These are the rock piles. I have no idea what the history is behind those rock piles.
Subject property here has the rocks, yes.
Yeah,
But the one that has been actively,
Blasting?
it's adjacent.
That's adjacent
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
one
That's
thing.
just to the north. The, I know.
Was there an actual
Ralston,
application for that?
Ralston,
Ralston. Yeah, it's Ralston to the north is what they're talking about.
Was there? an
Ralston,
actual- I'm sorry, was there an actual application for that property?
Oh, they
Have an approval.
Oh, they have an approval. Okay, great.
They're not crossing, they have other access,
yeah.
but I'm just
Oh,
trying to
they're
get a sense
accessing off the Campbell Road,
All right.
right?
approximately where I am.
Right, no,
Yeah.
that's right. This abuts the unaccepted road that is Campbell, okay?
Right.
Yeah,
And so you have the Oat property that
Yes.
are under review,
Right.
right?
Red house right there?
north of that. So there's Campbell. Ed, can you scroll up a little
Yeah.
bit? I don't know if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can.
hold on, I get it right here.
There
This
you
is
go.
Yeah,
Campbell
where is
Road
There
right
you
here.
go.
That's
there's
Campbell,
Campbell.
There's Campbell. And there is the old house.
the Oat
right-
house,
Right, you
right?
see the driveway that comes in. just
Oh,
above the
okay.
first one.
Okay,
And then the Ralston property is just to the west of that.
That way.
well, it's getting to be a pretty hot spot, that
Right.
area.
It is the Ralston property right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the views off that.
Yeah,
hill
no,
are
I just
quite
I
nice.
love this.
Yeah, I do too. I'd like to
Yeah.
look at it.
And I'm here because I'm just, yes, so much interest in this area.
And there's 2 more vacant lots.
Yeah, I know. I can't,
One on either side.
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question for you.
I know.
What percentage of the storage volume
Yeah.
are you eliminating with this crossover, and what will that do, since the water amount won't change, what will that do to the outline of where the water's stored?
Good question, Dave. The volume is going to be decreased by about 5% total with what I've got for the volume of the fill in here. It's only 70 cubic yards. But in order to make up for that, you can see I've graded out a little bit of the depression to widen it out onto our property here. So we're gaining whatever I'm losing in here, I'm gaining it in surface area on that side. So it's going to be almost a wash. I'm not going to say it's 100%. I can get real creative with the land sculpting and give it back 100%, but we're really talking not that big a percentage to begin with. And what I didn't want to do is keep chasing the slopes back, but it's possible to do. DOT didn't seem to be concerned about it.
And
like
just
I said,
again, I know
This is their
It's not-
baby, so.
it's not our purview, but does the property, so they're building all of that mostly on state land, is that correct? Does the property end at that line?
Our property ends at this blue line right here. Y'all still looking at my screen? That blue line is the street line. That's the end of
So
our
is the
property
state
line. The state's gonna
is
own
the state
these culverts.
application? They're gonna be on the application as part of the application?
I don't know that they have to be.
Well, this is like if you were putting a driveway on a town road, the town doesn't sign the application. You have to get the permits to do your driveway cut.
That's right.
Never seen it where they didn't just go up to the road, but
Well, I mean, think about the Allen Street one,
Mhm.
just recently, the Hines subdivision, the state didn't
Right.
Oh,
They
that's
said
right.
granted a permit for it,
Yeah,
but they didn't sign off on the wetland application. All right, so sidewalk?
yeah.
Right.
I'd like to.
Okay, you all know that I'm not local at this point, boots on the ground. But I think Sue Mattern, she's also on Zoom with us right now. Her company did the survey on this and she's basically been running lead on the permitting locally. So Sue, are you gonna be able to? Can you hear us, Sue? Can you talk?
She can hear us,
Unmute.
but she can't talk.
Unmute, Sue. You're still muted.
Okay, there I am.
Uh,
Yes, I am available.
Okay.
Excellent.
Appreciate that.
So what do you guys thinking?
You want a site walk, when would you like it? Next week?
Yeah. Just has to be
What
afternoon.
do you think, what day's supposed to be nasty?
What day's not supposed to be?
I
nasty?
know.
No, it's not bad. Tuesdays are supposed to be bad, I think.
Tuesday?
I think Tuesday. was-
I'll look right.
I don't know, that sounds a little.
It says Wednesday rainy.
What dates are we?
Monday, Tuesday look good right now. Wednesday rain,
30,
Thursday.
31.
Thursday clear. So I'd say
What, two?
if you're looking for a clear day, Monday, Tuesday or Thursday.
Good for me.
For me.
Mondays,
Monday's fine.
yeah.
What time you wanna go?
3:30. 3:30, you can get there all the way?
3:30?
For Stonington?
Oh, yeah.
Girl.
Now, like I said, you
Right,
realize
drive
we're gonna be
Ferrari, you know.
shifting this driveway location on a future revision, but we're holding off on the revisions right now till we field all the comments, which we anticipate getting within the next 2 weeks. So, what I might be able to do, by the next meeting, I know I can't commit to that I could get this revised out so you could see the new location. But we're gonna get it to you as soon as possible. Just so you know, the driveway's just moving about, like I said, about 30 feet to the west.
All right. Site walk on Monday at 3:30.
And I think it'll be, we're thinking about this before, so it's actually shifting the driveway to the west is gonna change the angle of the driveway and it won't be a straight shot for runoff and whatnot. So that's actually could be a little bit more ideal, but we'll wait to see your plans.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's gonna help us out in a few ways. It gives us a little bit more driveway length, so I can soften the grade up going up the driveway. Not a whole lot. I guess every little bit helps. All right,
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So Susan, did you hear what date and time?
Yes,
January?
3:30 on
Okay,
Monday.
Very good. We'll get you a notice as well.
Sorry.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ed. And I will see all of the rest of you out at the site.
See you then.
thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Great, thanks.
Good seeing
Thank
you.
you.
Are we gonna park on the just Groton Long Point Road or?
Yes, probably, but we'll scope out a place and see if there's a safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a pullout on the other side, just for maybe a car?
I know it, that's what I'm thinking. There's also that paralleling station for Amtrak that's down there, or maybe we could even just meet here and do 1 or 2 cars down there. So we'll get it figured out.
Okay.
Now, do we want to look at this?
Well, what's next?
That's it.
So
New applications.
we don't have any new applications.
Oh,
Is-
pending, pending. Otis is still pending. I'm still waiting for revisions for that one.
Maybe she's gonna move that barn.
So we can put it,
So right, and so then the next one is 193 Godfrey. So
Yeah.
in your, I just want to make sure.
Oh,
there's not
sorry.
any- No, it's okay. So in your packet, there is a first draft of a planting plan. I can see that the owners are here, and Dave, if you can allow, or Irene to. Yep. Well, She seems to have disappeared.
Who's
Don't know.
Jason?
I don't know. Jason, are you part of 193? Godfrey? If you are, you can unmute, and if not, that's fine.
I'm not.
Okay, that's okay, no
Thank you.
problem.
I'm not.
Right. Yeah, so I did see the owner,
Yeah.
but she seems to have left. So at any rate, there's the first draft of a plan in your packet. I've let them know that, you know, crowding all of those trees into one small area is, it's not healthy for the trees, and it's not exactly what I was looking for. It looks like she's back. So
Or just.
allow her to talk.
Talk.
Yeah. Yeah, Irene, you can go ahead and present and talk to your plan if you like.
Okay, here's Bill.
Good evening,
Okay,
everybody.
great, thanks.
Did a basic plan there for the replanting of several trees there. I'm assuming they're native to Connecticut from what I looked up online. I believe I was told that they're a little too close together, but I can move them accordingly to however Deb, you would like that, and we could take pictures of it when we do the replanting. And I believe that should be at an April timeframe when the frost is gone, if everyone agrees.
Do you want me to lay out the plan for you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, great. All right, so this corner here are the trees that they are suggesting. And again, I let them know that's definitely too close together. And frankly, I'm not really sure that many trees is really necessary. You know, you might want to put in there some native shrubs that might be more appropriate, given that there are still existing trees and there's still tree cover there. You know,
I could
you also might want to talk to, you know, like a landscape
That's what I was
or, yeah, exactly. So if you guys could, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest to Irene, who sounds like a man, but I'm not sure what your name is that maybe you might want to consult with some professional about this and just who might advise you.
Roger, do that. And my name's Bill William. I'm her husband.
Okay, Bill, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So that would be my suggestion, is to come up with a planting plan with some expert advice.
Roger that. And I could have that for you hopefully by the next meeting, if that's doable.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. I can take care of that, and we'll work on that and have that submitted through a professional landscaper with I'm assuming 6 to 7 shrubs.
Yeah, and also some, we need some dimensions on them, you know, how large they are. Same thing with the trees. You know, how the minimum height, the minimum caliper, that should also be part of the plan.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from you all?
Be happy to see that.
No, be happy to see that when it comes in.
Great.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
Thank you for
Okay,
being
thank you.
cooperative.
All right,
Now you can, now we're on new business.
gentlemen,
Now, your
roll it
first,
out.
your first and your last.
Another challenging one.
Yeah, and I think this one's super challenging. So this is 3 Kings Highway, which is, this is the old Caldors located here, and now it's,
It was Pfizer and now it's Electric Boat.
Okay, highway is, I'm having trouble with that.
then there's a hotel of Quality Inn or
Right,
one
so
of
I
those.
thought.
Just slide the slide the map over just a little bit.
It's actually off of Route 1, you know, as you're coming up to the highway, as it turns into Route 12, there's a 99 restaurant, isn't that?
Oh, I know exactly
Okay.
where you mean, yes.
So this is the entrance into, I call it the old Caldors because that's,
Yeah, but oh,
I
that's
know
the
that's-
Pfizer.
but now
Yeah.
it's,
It's
Or
electric
electrical.
boat now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what that place is.
so you can see in the aerial, this building is no longer there, and I think they
Yeah.
everything drains, you can see, we did kind of some minimal work. David did delineate the wetlands and just kind of the up around the upland part, there's another it gets wider down here, and I think most of this is wetlands down here, but we're not gonna do that yet, because really the only area that's upland is this area that would be usable. And if there are uplands down here, they're not gonna be usable.
To access this.
Well, so there's an existing house there that I think, and Deb might know some of the more of the history of it. Someone lived there, I think, 25 years ago. It's pretty overgrown. You can't even tell where their driveway is or was. So at some point, they must have gotten across the wetland. This whole parking area dumps into two 30-inch culverts that dump in here. And there's a tremendous amount of sediment that gets washed down into these wetlands. And David can speak a little bit to that, but there's a pretty well-defined, I would say it's probably, and he had the appropriate term, more than an intermittent water stream, because there's water in it all the time. But it's about 5 feet wide and then runs. And then at this point, and again, we didn't delineate the other side of the wetlands. We had originally thought that would come in somewhere in this area, but I think we probably would think about a crossing up here. And actually we took a kind of a look at two different scenarios on what we do. We would cross with a culvert and come in kind of behind our proposed building to stay away from the balance of doing any pavement or anything down in this area.
You need to know the other side of the
Is this-
wetland.
Right.
Well, we do, and again, we just kind of,
Is this for a house?
this is for a small warehouse.
Yeah, by way of background, this is commercially zoned.
Yeah.
Okay. I've not ever been on the property, but I understand there is a house out there that did have a driveway on Kings Highway that was eliminated when Pfizer was required to put in the sidewalk that you see there.
That's where I was going. So we had an application all about this.
Absolutely,
Yep.
that's right, that's right. The water course that comes through there is not just as a result of the stormwater coming off of the Caldor Pfizer site. There's a water course that comes down off of the I-95 interchange, comes behind the bowling alley
Yep.
and comes through. So it's in addition to the stormwater coming off of this site. Again, I know I've never been out there either, and my understanding is whoever Greg's client is doesn't want to put a ton of money into it at this point until they get some preliminary review by you guys.
So my first question is, so did Pfizer complete, because we went around in some circles about that application, did they complete the work that they wanted to do? How long ago was that application? You know me in time, Deb.
I don't remember. Yeah, Pfizer was responsible for the sidewalk that you see there, as well as some parking lot improvements. After Electric Boat purchased it from Pfizer, there were more improvements that came by you, including the removal of that building that's just at the
That's
top of
right,
it.
yeah.
It was the
Remember
old
that.
bank, I believe, and they turned that into additional parking, and so that is also complete. And that was, maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
It wasn't too long.
It looks like they did some pervious paving.
Right, yeah, that's probably
To
true.
kind of
Yep.
maybe get around some of the additional
Runoff. yeah.
runoff, that's how they. But anyway, there's a tremendous, and the, there is a tremendous amount of sediment movement. The water that comes through those two culverts. And, you know, basically after it leaves the kind of more defined stream, it just spreads out like I would guess like a delta in a Mississippi or something. It just,
Dendritic pattern.
yes. But anyway, so what our proposal would be is kind of a small warehouse for not a very active warehouse, small box trucks coming in the back, everything inside. It's for
Like dry goods
wine,
and, yeah.
wine
Yeah.
storage for one of the local
Sorry.
package store.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, so
All right.
part of the
It's good.
problem or
I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry.
Well,
Just caught me off guard.
one of the problems my client is having is that with COVID, he orders wine from Italy, for example, and he doesn't know if he's gonna get it 6 weeks,
Okay.
6 months, 8 months. And so he's pre-ordering a lot of stuff and he needs
The storage.
a storage area.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of ideal to his location on Route 12. And it's a tricky site. You can see what we have there and the amount of waters coming in. And David can speak to this also.
And you could never ask to just go into that parking lot and access it that way.
Well, there's a pretty significant
there's a
grade
slope.
drop.
Oh. I don't know. I mean,
Right, I mean, yeah,
I've never seen
exactly.
this property.
Right. But there definitely is a drop off from.
Considerable drop
Like
off.
the
We talked about. Well, I think we can alleviate some of the sediment movement as a benefit to the downgrading or downstream wetlands, maybe create I wouldn't say a detention pond, but an active wetland area that would help with that. We're kind of willing to do, again, it's a trade-off.
A lot of it depends on how wide that wetland is there where you're trying to cross.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. This is accurate on our plan here. This, because we did delineate.
It's just the stream.
We did
There's
delineate.
no wetlands.
No, we delineated both sides here of the wetland. And what do we got for a scale there? 30 scale. It's about 5 feet wide for this portion. And then at this point, it flares out and we don't have that yet. But obviously, when we came back, we don't even have a full survey yet. But we have it. All this stuff is located with GPS and our survey equipment. So and you can see the aerial underneath everything. We located the sidewalk. You can see it lines up pretty well. We located the edge of road, lines up pretty well. You can see the parking lines up everything's.
So what you're looking for right now is for us to go out there and say,
You guys are crazy.
dream on, or
Yeah,
is that what you're looking for?
kind of, yeah,
Okay, so the wetlands are not flagged.
they are.
They are flagged.
Yeah, so what you see there
Okay.
is just the upland side of the wetlands.
Okay.
There are more wetland flags to be had
Okay.
going down in this area here.
Well, I don't think we can go
Oh, so
after
the,
the other sidewalk. So want to say the following Monday, the 6th? Or is that Monday work for people pretty well?
I am not gonna be here on the 6th. Actually, I'm coming back from a vacation on the 6th. So if we could do anything after the 6th, I was hoping it was gonna be the 30th because I'm still gonna be here, but.
Okay.
And again, there's no, this is a preliminary.
Yeah, there's no deadlines.
no,
Yeah.
it's not a
We're
real
not under the
application
here.
at this point.
Right.
I don't know if David wants to say anything or you guys had any specific questions.
haven't-
Well, I
He's been
could
out
do-
here a couple times.
I can also do Wednesday, the 1st. Is that, you want 2 in 1 week?
It
Anybody?
would
do
be
that.
next Wednesday.
So next Monday and Wednesday.
I can't do that. I can't.
So when are you leaving?
I'm leaving on Tuesday,
Oh, okay.
coming back on Monday, the following Monday.
All right. So this coming Tuesday, coming back.
Well, how
from
about then the following Wednesday?
the 8th? I'm trying to think, getting out there in my. You know, I think
I
I
don't know myself, but
Sunday.
But yeah.
The 8th.
Sorry, did we decide on the date? Wednesday?
I can't ever do a Wednesday.
Okay.
You
I
can't
work
ever
at the
do it.
library.
Then in that case, then that puts us, you guys are gonna have to go on your own, but
Are you leaving on Thursday?
say what, so I'm leaving on, well, I could do, wait. What about no, are you back the 13th?
Yeah, I'm here.
13th?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right,
I'm back on the sixth, the Monday. you
all right, I can do the 13th. You wanna do the
is it a
13th?
Tuesday?
It's a
It's a
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, I can do that.
3:30, Monday, the 13th.
Okay.
That'll give you some time to decompress from your vacation.
Get ready for
I need
us.
a Vacation from my vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you
To
for.
make sure that both sides of the wetlands along that area are delineated.
Yeah, so where
And if you have.
we're thinking of crossing is in this area where both sides are delineated.
So maybe put some stakes where you're thinking of and where the building would be and just so we
Okay.
have a rough.
Yeah, yeah.
idea.
Yep.
I think we can park at Electric Boat.
We can,
Mm,
Sure. There's no gate, like with Pfizer, there was a gate.
I know, I remember that, yeah.
This is not as challenging as the other one.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's,
Of course, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is,
In their own way.
yeah, you could see the existing house on there. Guy must have had some connection with a concrete company because there's a lot of concrete walls and concrete floor with a full basement underneath. So it's kind of an interesting house, which we would remove, and that's, you can see the proximity to the wetlands there. Again, another,
Before our time.
Yeah.
All right,
all right, thank you for adding us to the agenda.
No problem. We aim to please.
all right. I don't have anything.
So yeah, the only thing that I have is that Linda is retiring. Her last day in the office actually is tomorrow.
Oh.
Yep, so I just wanted to let you know that. At this point, I think we won't have administrative staff here. For other commissions, folks have just been watching the tape the next day and doing the minutes off of that.
Mm.
So you won't be getting your emails from Linda anymore, but
Okay.
we'll get
Yeah.
it figured out and we're gonna hire a replacement for her and we'll. again,
Is
we'll
she
figure it out.
retiring or?
She is, she's retiring.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish her well.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be getting in that line. We'll be getting in that
Looking
line.
pretty good. I don't know. She's pretty happy.
Yeah.
All right, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye or wave. We're adjourned.
Right. See everybody Monday.
All right. Thanks, everybody.